the New York Minute Sports Show. Thanks for joining. And we have over 45,000 followers, and I just want to thank everybody out there for the follows, guys. We've got spring training baseball, and if you haven't been to spring training down in Tampa Bay, I highly recommend it, guys. It's like baseball heaven. You go down there, you get out of the cold from New York, and God knows that we need that today, especially with the day that we're having with the high winds and the pouring rain. But I'm not here to talk about the weather. I'm here to talk about our baseball forecast, which is a little cloudy right now, I have to admit, because I can't remember a spring training, probably around 2021, going into it with a lot of question marks. Now, where are the runs going to come from? That was a question actually asked to me by this old-timer in the bank today. Old-timer, around 70 years old, turns around to me. He's got a Yankee hat on. He sees my Yankee sweatshirt on, and he goes, hey, he goes, not going to be good this year for the Yankees. I'm telling you right now, where the run's going to come from. And I was like, you know what? That's a really good question, because left field, third base, and the leadoff position are all major question marks going into the season for the Yankees. Now, I understand it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, and you don't have to have your best team assembled by opening day. You should have your best team assembled by the start of the postseason. I get it. Just get in the dance. But the Yankees are a different kind of squad. With the acquisition of Cody Bellinger, with the acquisition of Paul Goldschmidt, the offense seems to be lacking a little bit. I know that we're overlooking Aaron Judge, the best player in baseball as far as I'm concerned when it comes to the baseball bat being in his hands. But the Yankees went with mitigating runs rather than scoring runs, it seems like, with Max Fried, we'll get to him, Devin Williams, and the acquisition of arms in the bullpen, because the Yankees right now are stacked. Even with the injuries to their starting rotation, the Yankees are stacked in the bullpen. They are stacked in the starting rotation. So their defense has improved overall. Up the middle, Austin Wells, Volpe, Jazz at his natural position at second base, and Cody Bellinger playing in center field. That's when you're a good team, when you're strong defensively up the middle, and that includes pitching, because Max Fried won a Gold Glove at first base. Paul Goldschmidt won a Gold Glove at first base. Paul Goldschmidt is a little bit older, but the greatest thing about Cody Bellinger is that he also can play first base. And now Ben Rice is taking reps at first base and catcher. So to my older guys, all my 90s Yankee guys, he can be like Mike Stanley 2.0 or maybe a Jimmy Leyritz with a higher ceiling, because Ben Rice has put on 20 pounds of muscle in the offseason. But I always start to cringe, especially when Yankees put on 20 pounds of muscle in the offseason, because they wind up getting hurt all the time. So the question to everybody that's watching, and thank you for watching, and leave in the comments, leave your answer in the comments below. Do you think Brian Cashman is getting cute with the Yankees? And what I mean by that is Brian Cashman trying to get by on the cheap in the American League. Now, the Yankees seem like they are the cream of the crop in the American League. With the Astros, seem like they're on a downturn. The Yankees own the American League Central, and the only team that I think that will rival the Yankees this year in the AL East would be the Boston Red Sox. And I think the Orioles took a major step back with not acquiring pretty much anybody in the offseason and letting a lot of guys go out the door. So is Brian Cashman trying to get by, start the season with a skeleton crew? But it's not even a skeleton crew. Left field, third base, and a leadoff hitter seem to be pretty important in the game of baseball. Even with the new stats and all the analytics and stuff like that, I want a guy that can set the table. And that's what screwed up Volpe last year. If you remember in the beginning of the season last year, Volpe was hitting in the 5 spot. Gleyber Torres was hitting in the leadoff spot. Both of them started off the season guns blazing, and then they switched them. They switched Volpe to the leadoff spot. They switched Gleyber to the 5 spot, and then that's when their decline started to take some real steam, is when they messed around with them in the lineup. And Volpe will be back in the 5 spot, it seems like, this year. So that's a very good sign for the Yankees. But is Brian Cashman just trying to tread water until the All-Star break? Does he know that the American League East is a foregone conclusion and that they're going to win it as long as they stay healthy? But the problem's with the leadoff position. The leadoff position with the Yankees reminds me of the point guard position with the Knicks in the 90s and the 2000s, where they refused after Chris Childs to get a point guard. I mean, one of the most important field generals in the game of basketball, just like a leadoff guy, to set the table for the rest of the team. The Yankees do not have a natural leadoff hitter and haven't had a natural leadoff hitter for a while. I think Brett Gardner might have been the last guy, maybe Chuck Knobloch, and I'm saying that in all sarcasm, with all the sarcasm in my body, Chuck Knobloch. But when they don't have a leadoff guy, now they're talking about Jason Dominguez being the leadoff guy, or Jazz Chisholm being the leadoff guy. I've seen both guys taking reps at it. I don't like Jazz Chisholm being in the leadoff spot just because he does supply that power, but he does have that speed. But then Jason Dominguez, speaking of what our season might hinge on, is the 22-year-old Martian Jason Dominguez. And that runs us right into left field, where Jason Dominguez has looked like he's been on roller skates in left field. You know what? Last year, the last series at home, homestand against the Orioles, I went to go see Jason Dominguez play the outfield position, and I went to all the games. And when I say it was scary, it was like Saw 6, okay? It looked like the bathroom from the first Saw movie. It's bad. So then I start to think, and that was my first problem, I go, now why are they letting Cody Bellinger play center field when you have the future of the team, the Martian, who's 22, playing left field? Why wouldn't you just move Cody Bellinger, who's in a contract year, 1 year, possibly a 1 year rental for the Yankees, move him to left field because you know he's a ball player and can do it, and move Jason Dominguez to center? The problem is the rumor around the locker room with the Yankees is that Jason Dominguez can't play left, and guess what? He can't even play center. So that just shows, again, that Brian Cashman gets these guys that are very good hitters, but then they can't field their positions. And the Yankees have been fielding, a softball beer league, as far as I'm concerned, with people being out of position with the Yankees for the past 5 or 6 years, where they think they can just plug and play anybody. And it came back to bite the Yankees in the buns last World Series when you saw their defensive woes come back to bite them in the ass, and their base running woes come back to bite them in the buns. And they're a much better base running and defensive team this year. And that's the thing. I think maybe people are looking in the wrong direction about the Yankees. People are asking where the runs are coming from. But I think what the Yankees are asking themselves, is how many runs can we prevent with good defense and good pitching, because the Yankees are stacked on that side of the ball. But getting back to Jason Dominguez looks like he can definitely hit the ball. And they are carrying a lot of stock in this guy. If Jason Dominguez does not produce or cannot play because of his defense, that is a huge, huge knock to the Yankees. That is a big blow to them. And Lombard Jr., Spencer Jones, Will Warren, we'll get to those guys. But don't count on them coming through just so quick. Everybody looks like an all-star in spring training because you got a bunch of guys coming in and out and working on stuff. So it's really not a true litmus test, spring training, for what guys are going to do in the regular season. And remember, baseball is streaky. So Oswaldo Cabrera came out of the gates blazing last year, and you can see what happens when he came back to earth, because I don't think Oswaldo Cabrera is an everyday player. That gets us to third base. What are the Yankees going to do with third base? It's not a throwaway position. I know that they've devalued first base, but what about third base? We had Jazz move there last year, and thanks to him, he played a great third base. Never even played third base before, and you could have fooled me. With Gleyber Torres refusing to move to third, and I'm glad that we got rid of him. But Jazz is back at his natural position at second base, so that leaves third base open. You got these Peraza, you got Oswaldo Cabrera, and DJ LeMahieu. Now, DJ LeMahieu looks like he can't even play baseball anymore. His bat speed looks like it's in slow motion. I was watching it. He gets hurt way too much. That's the perfect example of a guy getting paid way too much money not to kick the tires on it, because DJ LeMahieu is sitting there, and he is the Tin Man. I mean, I've never seen a dude stretch out more of a 2019 batting title than that guy. He won one batting title with the Colorado Rockies, had a couple of good years with the Yankees when he was healthy, could play every position, and they needed him at that. And he was supposed to be a bench player. I understand that. But now the game has passed him by. And that's why I'm very surprised why everyone keeps scratching their head about why Nolan Arenado hasn't shown up to the Yankees. Well, he did practice with them, but he's not signed by the Yankees yet. Now, the reason that I think that he hasn't been signed by the Yankees yet is that the fact that Nolan Arenado is best friends with DJ LeMahieu. If Nolan Arenado comes to the Yankees, he's taking his best friend's job from him. So I think that's the major hurdle. I don't think it's playing in New York. I don't think it's the money situation because the Cardinals and Yankees actually have spoke about that apparently and were able to come to some kind of negotiation. But when you have your best friend on the team and this calf injury to DJ LeMahieu might have been a blessing in disguise. I don't root for anybody to get hurt, and I'm not rooting for anyone to get hurt. But timing is everything, and he went down with a calf, another calf. He got hurt again. It hasn't even been, 3 weeks into spring training. So now he goes down, and then Nolan Arenado comes into practice with the Yankees. So I don't know what's going to happen there, and I don't know how they're going to handle it, but they need to figure it out quick because the left side of the field for the Yankees is very weak. Very weak. They moved Judge back to his natural position in right field. Once again, he's the best right fielder in New York, and he makes about $400 million less than the right fielder for the Mets. That contract is starting to look like the smartest contract ever given by a baseball team is the Aaron Judge contract of $400 million at 9 years. Because with the way that he's been producing all-star MVP year after MVP year, and, the postseason woes aside, still, Aaron Judge is the, if not the, second best player in all of baseball. So some of the standouts from spring training so far have been the 19-year-old shortstop Lombard Jr. This guy, he looks amazing, and he almost reminds me of a Alex Cora type with the same frame and a kind of like a can't miss prospect. This guy looks amazing, but you got to remember, you got to pump your brakes on this dude. He got hurt last year. He's 19 years old. And I got a text. And also, you can check out our show on YouTube. That's New York Minute Sports Show on YouTube. And my co-host, Chris, we were messaging before this, and we were talking about he wishes how it was like football, how we could just plug and play these 19-year-olds in baseball. And what I said to him, and he agreed, was the fact that, in baseball, these leagues catch up so quickly to these guys, is that Lombard Jr. might be able to put it together for about 3 weeks and rip the cover off the ball, but then the league will catch up and know how to pitch to him. Listen, if he's a generational talent and he just hits the ball and he's one of those guys, even better. But usually with a 19-year-old guy in baseball, you can bring these guys up too quick and you can hurt their maturation process. You can hurt their development and hurt their psyche because, baseball and a lot of sports, all of it's played between the ears. I don't care what anybody says. Like Yogi Berra said, 90% of the game is physical, 10% of the game is mental. So now you have Jason Dominguez and Spencer Jones, Lombard Jr., and Will Warren, okay? Now, Will Warren looks like he might be able to sneak into that fifth starter spot now that Marcus Stroman has been just laying egg after egg in spring training. And I said this before, that Marcus Stroman, they should have kept him in a cage somewhere and not let him see the light of day. Because if you keep him out of the light of day, people will still want to get him. Let's say if a team's whole starting rotation goes down, you want Marcus Stroman on your team. So now by showing him in spring training and him just having terrible start after terrible start, no one's going to want to go for him. And he's only bringing his value down. So that's why I don't know. I don't know why the Yankees, what they were thinking in actually bringing Stroman up and showing him to the world. They should have kept him in the locker room, never let him start a spring training game so he can get shelled and devalue himself. It makes absolutely no sense. So getting back to the rookies, we have Spencer Jones. Spencer Jones, everyone's calling him the left-handed Aaron Judge, and everyone needs to pump their brakes a little bit. Graduated from Vanderbilt a couple of years ago. This guy looks like he's got all the tools. They call him a five-tool player. He's fast. He's big. He's a lot of holes in his swing, apparently. It looks like this spring training that he has kind of repaired those holes in his swing, but he's another guy that's a 2026 guy. They're saying Lombard Jr. is a 2027 guy. Spencer Jones is a 2026 guy. But in all honesty, I can't remember a time that the Yankees, other than the Baby Bombers, had this influx of talent coming through the farm system with Lombard Jr., Spencer Jones, and Will Warren, who's got so much good stuff. I really think highly of these guys. So that means you got Spencer Jones, 2026, Lombard Jr., 2027. That's when these guys are going to come up. And I think Will Warren's going to be able to sneak into that fifth spot this year with the stuff and the talent that he has. His 6.34 ERA last year was not indicative of what kind of pitcher this guy can be, because I think he's going to be a stud. But the Yankees' whole season, not the whole season, but a majority of it is hinged on Jason Dominguez's performance. And if Jason Dominguez can't field the position, they're going to have to send him down. So who's going to play left field then? Are you going to have to go get Verdugo off the scrap heap because he's familiar with the team and played left field last year? Even though Verdugo didn't hit for anything, I heard he was a bad locker room guy. That wasn't true. He was a good locker room guy on the Yankees. He played superb defense. He was the only one playing defense in the postseason last year. He actually hit for 310 was his postseason average, so he did come up in big spots. I understand he is a fifth outfielder at best. But if Jason Dominguez does not pan out to be anything in the start of the season, now who's starting left field? Because the position is Jason Dominguez's to lose. So my question is, leave a comment below. Who do you think, if Jason Dominguez doesn't make it, who can you put in left field? Because I've heard a lot of people say Spencer Jones, but then I hear people say out of the other side of their mouth that Spencer Jones isn't coming for another year, folks, because he's very young. But all positive things with the Yankees and how much youth they do have on their team. Now let's talk about somebody that's not youthful. Giancarlo Stanton. Giancarlo Stanton got tennis elbow in both arms. Okay? People that are in assisted living facilities get tennis elbow in both arms at the same time. Okay? Geriatrics. This is why listen, Giancarlo Stanton is amazing in the postseason. But remember this, Giancarlo Stanton gets all the praise. Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton have the same amount of postseason home runs. Just hear me out on that. Giancarlo Stanton, I think what they should do with Giancarlo Stanton is let him sit out until July every year. If you've noticed with Giancarlo Stanton, the past 2 years, he plays pretty decently until the All-Star break. Then he gets hurt either at the All-Star game or right after the All-Star break, and then they shut him down. They shut him down until about August. Then he starts getting warmed up for the postseason. I say let him sit until July. Let him rest up. Let him be, I call it the Bartolo Colon rule, because I think that Bartolo Colon would always start the season like 10-2 in the first half for the Mets. And then what would happen? He would end the season at like 13-14 and be a 500 pitcher because he would run out of gas. Let Giancarlo Stanton sit down and chill until we need him in August. Because you know that this Yankees team is going to make the postseason, but he was the only one hitting in the postseason, because if it wasn't for Giancarlo Stanton last year, no one was hitting at that time against the Cleveland Indians. So you got Giancarlo Stanton, double tennis elbow. Then you have Luis Gil getting hurt. Now, Luis Gil getting hurt is, of course, it's not a good thing. But when I heard that it wasn't Tommy John, because when the reports first came out, it was a shoulder strain or tightness in the shoulder, and that usually means Tommy John, that you're not going to see Luis Gil for another year and a half after his great performance last year. But it's a lat strain, and I don't know what happened in the last 5 years is that all these lat strain keeps coming up. But he has a lat strain. We're not going to see him for a while. Clark Schmidt worries me a little bit with that back. I heard he has a stiff back, but when Clark Schmidt is right, he pitches for a low ERA. He's a ground ball pitcher. Love what he's done so far. Also, Max Fried. I watched Max Fried's spring training start. Awesome. I love the way this guy looks. Garrett Cole has never had an actual number 2 in the pitching rotation. Carlos Rondon's not a 2. He's a 3 or 4, and he's a mental patient. But I like the fact that I haven't heard his name mentioned once this spring training, which is a good sign with him. But Max Fried throwing 98-mile-an-hour fastball, throwing a 78-mile-an-hour 12-6 curveball, throwing an 82-mile-an-hour slurve or sweeper, whatever you want to call it. But the guy's got stuff. The guy looks tough. The guy pitches to contact, to ground balls. He's a left-handed pitcher, which works out well for Yankee Stadium, even with the short porch and right. So it looks like the Yankees definitely made the right acquisition with Max Fried. When this guy's throwing 98-mile-an-hour gas and then goes 78-mile-an-hour 12 to 6 o'clock curveball, that is some nasty stuff. Like I just said before, Garrett Cole hasn't had that number 2 guy. Carlos Rondon is not a number 2 guy. He's not a number 3 guy. Okay? So Garrett Cole finally has a number 2, and I was watching his spring training start, and this guy was working on stuff, and he looked great. Will Warren has looked great. It's not the pitching that worries me with the Yankees, guys. The pitching is on a lock. The starting pitching is going to be fine. The bullpen's going to be great. You got Luke Weaver once Loizaga gets healthy. So you have a 6, 7, 8, 9 of Loizaga, Luke Weaver, and Devin Williams, who got the beard rule changed, which I couldn't believe. But look good, feel good, play good, baby. So whatever it takes to close out games. And even if it goes sour with Devin Williams, we still got Luke Weaver, Dreamweaver, to be our closer, who stepped up big time last year in the starting position, because our closer from last year is a Mets starting pitcher this year. So good luck with that, Mets. But, so the Yankees, there's a lot of question marks. People are a little bit worried, but you know what? I got to admit, we know now why Brian Cashman didn't do all of the moves that we thought he was going to do in the offseason with the offense. Because guess what, folks? The youth movement's here. Ben Rice, Jason Dominguez, Spencer Jones, Lombard Jr., all these dudes. This is the future, because Hal Steinbrenner said it himself. The payroll that they had with Juan Soto was not sustainable. He said it many times. So what happens when you don't have a roster that's sustainable, you need to get guys in their first 5-year contracts where you can pay them relatively nothing for the first 5 years and then just keep bringing up from the farm system, plug and play. The Yankees learned it the hard way from the Astros year after year with the talent that they were bringing out of the farm system. And the Yankees can't go and buy the guys that they wanted to go buy anymore. It's not like that. The Yankees are a mom-and-pop shop now. You got Uncle Stevie. You got the Dodgers. They're playing three-dimensional chess, okay? The Yankees bring in the most revenue, but you still remember the Steinbrenners make all their money off of baseball. So they have to make smart decisions. And Hal, yes, has been sitting on his wallet. Do I want him to spend more money? Absolutely. When I watch a poor guy pay $18.50 for a beer at the game, hell yeah. We should be spending as much money as possible. And with Stevie Cohen coming in across town, I think it might be the best thing ever happened to the Yankees, because it's going to put a flame under their ass to perform and do something. Because if this town becomes a Met town, God forbid that ever happens, but you know, if this town becomes a Met town, the Yankees are going to lose their allure. With Juan Soto going over to the Mets, the dynamic has changed in baseball, even in New York. The dynamic has changed in baseball with the L.A. Dodgers. But guess what? The Yankees don't have to worry about the Dodgers. And that's why I think that Cashman's getting by on the cheap with the American League, because how weak it is, that he thinks that the Yankees, with whoever that they put up there, they're going to get about 89 to 92 wins. They're going to get in the postseason. Big moves during probably the trading deadline for the Yankees, where they can acquire a bat, but they're going to have to feel it out. You got Ben Rice, you got Jason Dominguez. They're going to be two key parts to this team. Ben Rice plays first base. He plays catcher. Ben Rice came up as a catcher. Last year, what he did for the Yankees was he learned the first base position, so now he's made himself indispensable with knowing first and catcher. Then you have Oswaldo Cabrera. Oswaldo Cabrera is not an everyday player. Oswaldo Cabrera needs to come off the bench to give guys rest on this team. And Oswaldo Cabrera works better when he comes off the bench. Telling you, man, the guy can play any position, and especially when somebody gets hurt where he has to come up and play every day, so be it. But you don't want to do it until that point. Jason Dominguez looks like he's playing left field on roller skates. I don't know if he can play outfield at all. And how the hell can you not catch a pop fly at 22 years of age? Because I was trying to think, what position, if you had to put the weakest defensive player on your team, where you would plug them on the field, and it would be left field. And it looks like he can't even play that. But we got more pressing issues. We got Aaron Rodgers, the Grim Reaper of New York, will not leave New York. He's like a poltergeist now. We thought that we got rid of him with the Jets. Davante Adams was released by the Jets as well, so it looks like the Jets are cleaning house from the Brett Favre experiment. But guess what? The New York Giants look like they're ready to get some ayahuasca going, baby, because they're going to do the Rodgers experiment, it looks like. If you are a coach on the hot seat, like Dable and Shane, you have no business bringing Aaron Rodgers into your team. If you're Dable and Shane, you're signing your own death warrant if you bring Aaron Rodgers in. I'm telling you right now, because then he's going to want to bring in Davante Adams. He's going to want to bring in Lazard, who the Jets are letting speak to other teams. He's going to keep going. It's going to be the Aaron Rodgers experience. You're going to need a mental checkup. I don't even know why the Giants are starting the season with Dane and Shane and Dable even being part of this franchise, because if they draft a quarterback and then they get fired next year, you have the worst move in football that you can do. You have a general manager and a head coach that are no longer part of the organization predicting your future for you with a quarterback that the new GM and head coach didn't even want. So I think the Giants are totally in F'sville, because the Jets, the Jets are going to jet. They're going to have 7 wins next year. They're whatever. We'll get to them. But Aaron Rodgers coming into MetLife Stadium from the other entrance for the New York Giants is going to end in disaster. I watched it happen with my own eyeballs. Aaron Rodgers' statistics are not what they are, okay? They're very, very deceiving. You got to remember, in a nothing game in the last game of the year, he threw for 4 touchdowns, and it padded his stats. The only 2 good games that Aaron Rodgers had last year was in the state of Florida in the middle of winter, because it's 98% humidity, against the Jacksonville Jaguars and against the Miami Dolphins. That's why he looked like he set back the clock 10 years, is because in the humidity, you don't feel your creaky bones. Did he start to get momentum towards the end of the year? Absolutely. Did it look like the ring rust started to get off of Aaron Rodgers? Absolutely. But if I'm the New York Giants and I want to keep my job as a head coach, I am not bringing Aaron Rodgers into that building. I don't know, man. Do you want to bring him in? Let me know in the comments below. If you are a Giants fan, what are you thinking? Do you want to bring Aaron Rodgers into this experiment? Do you want to bring... Like, the Giants have been mediocrity, and they have been suffering, the Giant fan, for the past, decade now. Do you want to go back to that? Do you want to get even lower? Because bring Aaron Rodgers in if you want to get to a new low. And then think about this for a second. If you get Aaron Rodgers, you can say goodbye to the development of Neighbors, because Davante Adams will be brought into the Giants, and then Aaron Rodgers will throw all the balls his way, because Garrett Wilson was suppressed, his development, and he still had a great year last year. Garrett Wilson's development was suppressed because as soon as Adams came in and Lazard came into the Jets, he was the third option. And Garrett Wilson is a stud. That's the problem with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers thinks he's the smartest guy in the room all the time, and he thinks that he knows what's best for the team. But walking into the Robert Saleh experiment last year and all that nonsense and the dumpster fire that is the Jets, what do you expect? It's the Jets being the Jets. Jets being the Jets. So the youth movement is on for the Yankees. It looks like Ben Rice, Jason Dominguez, Max Fried. We got a bunch of new guys. Looks like mitigating runs is going to be the answer for the Yanks, not scoring runs. And hopefully they can add it, because, I don't know, maybe Brian Cashman knows something that a lot of people don't know, is that the fact that they're counting on their youth big time this year. Okay, guys, and remember, go to the YouTube show, New York Minute Sports Show. We have this long format. We have 3 shows a week on YouTube, and I just wanted to thank you once again for all the support right here on Instagram. Over 45,000 followers. We really appreciate it, and I'm going to be live from spring training. I'm going to be live from all the Yankee games this year. I'm going to be interviewing people outside the building. So if you see me outside of Yankee Stadium, give a shout to New York Minute, and this was the soft opening for our live show here on Instagram. So thanks for joining, guys, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.